So welcome everyone to the webinar today. It's sponsored by the Center for Transportation Studies and jointly with the two councils, Transportation Safety Mobility Council and the Transportation Planning and the Economy Council. So my name is Lisa Austin and I am the chair of the Transportation Planning and the Economy Council. Oh, look there, we've got a nice slide with our pictures on it. And my vice chair is Paul Morris from SRF. So that's who I am. And I would like to pass it on to Joe, who's the chair of the Transportation Safety and Mobility Council. Introduce himself.
Yep. Good afternoon. As Lisa mentioned, I'm Joe Gustafson. I currently serve as the traffic engineer for Washington County, and I am the incoming chair of the Transportation Safety and Mobility Research Council. Also, my new vice chair, also incoming, is Tara Olds of MnDOT. Unfortunately, she was not able to be here today.
And good point. I didn't say who I work for. So I'm with MnDOT in the Center for Community Connection. So added that a little bit about myself. So just a little bit of background about the councils. CTS has these research councils that provide an opportunity for both practitioners, professionals, and researchers to get together and share information about, transportation issues and trends and learn about current research. And it brings together, the university staff and faculty, and like I said, practitioners from, the governments, state and local governments, and the private sector, so consultants and others. And we can recommend the direction for future research and education. So it's a really good chance for CTS to weigh in with professionals in all areas. We've got a slide there that describes a little bit more about it. And today's webinar is very interesting. It's titled Unlocking Autonomous Transportation Potential, Key Insights from the goMARTI Shuttle Pilot. We'll get started with that in a minute, but first I will pass it to Joe to do some housekeeping details.
All right, thank you, Lisa. We're looking forward to audience participation and questions during the Q&A time, which follows the presentations today. We encourage you to use the Q&A at the bottom of your screen at any time to type questions or comments for the speakers. During Q&A, you could use the raise hand feature if you prefer. Then we can unmute you to share verbally during that comment period. This event also, I should mention, meets the continuing education requirements for 1.5 professional development hours credits and 1.5 American Institute of Certified Planners, AICP, certification maintenance credits. The PDH form will be uploaded to the chat for anyone who needs it. We do have some events coming up in winter and spring of 2025 for CTS. Information on how to register will be available on the CTS website at www.cts.umn.edu/events/seminars. And thank you, Samantha, for putting that into the chat. And finally, if there are any students joining today, could you please send a chat to all panelists with your name, because we track the number of students who are engaging in our events. Thank you very much, and I'll turn it back over to Lisa.
Thanks, Joe. So with us today from CTS is James DeSoto and Sam Hondeville. I don't know if you're going to turn your cameras on and wave, but they have made this event possible, and with good thanks to all of them for bringing us together today. So a description of today's webinar: it's an in-depth exploration of the groundbreaking goMARTI Shuttle Pilot, one of the first autonomous rural on-demand public transportation initiatives in the United States. That's a lot of things to look at, right? The project was launched 2 years ago in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, with funding from the Minnesota Department of Transportation and a broad range of public, private, and academic partners. We got a little preview of it a few weeks ago, and it's got a lot of things in it. It dives into some of the key lessons learned, including challenges and opportunities of integrating autonomous vehicles into rural mobility options. So, transit in a rural area with autonomous. So that's one lens. We'll learn a little bit about passenger safety and accessibility today. And then some real world data on ridership and performance. So it kind of hits a lot of different pieces of how to integrate autonomous vehicles. The project leaders and experts will share their experiences, discuss how these findings can shape the future of autonomous transportation solutions, and talk about what's next for this project. Whether you're a transportation professional, city planner, a tech enthusiast, or something else, this session will provide a valuable insight into the evolving landscape of smart mobility. So, yeah, it's a great presentation. So I'm looking forward to seeing it again and hearing all your questions. So to get us started, we're going to watch a brief video with an overview of the goMARTI project and some of the community voices, including Myrna Peterson. So Sam, I don't know, go ahead and get that started and we'll watch the video.
Hey Myrna, how are you this morning? Oh, I'm good. Yeah, a little bit busy this morning, isn't it? My name is Myrna Peterson. I really like to be involved in all kinds of activities here in Grand Rapids. I work with youth at our church. I'm chairman of the Rife Arts Council. I was honored to be asked to be on the Governor's Council for Connected and Automated Vehicles. I sit on the Minnesota Council for Disability. Call Lisa Arnold. Hey Lisa, it's Myrna. I'm in goMARTI and we headed your way. Okay, we'll be out. I only have one thumb that works, but I have a mouth that won't quit. And so I use that to advocate for people of all abilities. Hi Myrna, hi Rochelle, how are you guys? Lisa is a force to be reckoned with. The two of us have kind of been co-chair people of Mobility Mania, which is a nonprofit that was established to make the community more aware of the needs for accessibility. We realized that the number one issue that people had was transportation, living in a rural community that was number one, accessible, and number two, affordable.
My name is John Daggy. I'm the site manager at the Grand Rapids, Minnesota May Mobility site. May Mobility is an autonomous vehicle company that aims to make transit more safe, accessible, and equitable for everybody. With the goMARTI project in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, this is the first rural deployment that features wheelchair accessible autonomous vehicles. In this project, one of the things that's really interesting to us is snow and ice specifically. What's slippery one day might not be slippery the next day. We tackle all of that on purpose so that we can improve the technology that deals with those circumstances on the road. The vehicles have sensors on the outsides that can read the situation that's happening around the car. Inside the vehicle, we run a process called multi-policy decision making, where the vehicle is taking in all of that sensor data, then interpreting it, and then running a simulation on what the safest thing to do would be, whether that's just to continue on route or to slow down or to even veer out of the way of something. In our deployment here, we have autonomous vehicle operators, and it's a person that is behind the wheel at all times in the vehicle. And if there's ever a situation where they feel the need to take control, they can do so instantly by using the gas, the brake, or just by using the steering wheel. Currently, it's an 18-month pilot operation, but we're very hopeful that we would continue on into the future and even expand the operation. Of America, our population consists of a large portion of seniors, 65 years of age and older. A big challenge with an aging population is transportation, and having that ability to have a vehicle at no cost, bring you to a grocery store, bring you to a department store, and then bring you home really is just going to be immensely valuable to them.
So that's a little preview of what we're going to learn about. And so with that, I'm going to welcome our first speaker, Frank Dauma. He's the Director of State and Local Policy and Outreach for the Institute for Urban and Regional Infrastructure Finance at the Humphrey School of Public Affairs and a research scholar at CTS. So with that, Frank, why don't you share your presentation? Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Lisa. We'll get the share to go forward here. And wait for my computer to bring the full slide up. There we are. All right, so thanks so much. I'm going to be talking about a portion of a larger research effort that was led by Gina Boss up in Grand Rapids related to this. But I'm also going to be giving a background about a number of studies that I've managed to be part of up in the Grand Rapids area for about the last 15 or so years. That all have looked at mobility and access from different perspectives. I certainly do not want to insinuate that my involvement over this time caused anything else to actually happen. Also recognize that just because there are a number of these activities that did happen, that any one necessarily caused any of the others to happen. But did want to kind of just give a outline here of work that's been going on, that all of this is also summarized on the MnDOT research page, which I believe was just shared in the chat, so you can get some more information there. To go back to when I first got involved, about 2008 or so, we're noticing that there was getting to be some unique challenges in rural transportation. They had, maybe 20% of the U.S. population, but nearly half of the all fatal crashes. The disproportionate number of the U.S. seniors. There was a desire for them to age in place rather than having to move out of their house as they got older. But the ability to drive declines with age. They're also more likely to have disabilities, and existing transit in rural areas is let's put it this way, not as available as it can be in urban areas. Then specifically looking at Itasca County, where Grand Rapids is located, they also have a disproportionate number of seniors, 23% versus 20% of the overall U.S. population. They also have a fairly equivalent number of children aged 17 and younger, of which a significant number are below the poverty line. And so these are folks who can be facing some challenges in being able to get around. Again, Grand Rapids is like a lot of areas outside of major metro areas. Transit is limited. But if you look at the issues here, it's not just that limited transit is the problem. It's getting from point A to B that was the problem at that time. This was recognized up in northern Minnesota in a 2008 United Way study. And the findings of that was picked up by the Blandin Foundation, which issued an RFP in 2009, asking for a study to identify the location and transportation needs of low-income workers, students, and seniors in the Grand Rapids area and Itasca County more generally. Identify some barriers and gaps and recommend solutions. This was the first time I got up there. Our team here at the Humphrey was selected as the team to do the study. And to get straight to the point, the recommendations we came up with from doing this more than 1 year set of listening sessions was to recommend that transit needed to be promoted even more. More people needed to know that that option was available. But to complement that, perhaps a shared rides program where people could let others know if they needed a ride or if they had an extra seat available. To facilitate that, possibly create specific pickup or park and ride locations, and then finally come up with additional solutions to improve student travel. Some of this activity then led to recognition by MnDOT. There could be an opportunity here to look at complete streets. MnDOT put together a fairly extensive partnership and received a federal grant to look at this question. I'm not going to get too much into the detail of this one, other than just to point out that it continued the conversation in the Grand Rapids area. And also, this was the first opportunity where I actually had a chance to meet and work with Tom Pagel, whom we saw in the video, and now is the city manager in Grand Rapids. That again, some of the findings from that were that need to provide more multimodal access to destinations and balance the need of all users while meeting ADA requirements. A few more years pass and we start to see the idea of self-driving vehicles or connected and automated vehicles move out of the science fiction into the science fact, if you will. And this became an interesting point of research for us here at the Humphrey School as well, and at CTS, because it seemed to create some new opportunities for transportation options and transportation services. One thing we did here at the Humphrey School is we created a task force that had a number of different stakeholders and perspectives to help us understand how this technology could help the transportation disadvantaged, as we referred to them, also known as people who don't drive or cannot drive in Minnesota. And we wanted to identify the disparities in connected and automated vehicle technologies that could help facilitate outreach about this in greater Minnesota. And you may recall Myrna Peterson started her activities with Mobility Madness in about this same time in Grand Rapids. So while we were aware of Grand Rapids as a place that was looking to be innovative, it was the actual suggestion of Myrna Peterson as a member of our task force that we got back connected to Grand Rapids. And one thing that came out of working with this task force is what we called a usability matrix. This was a project that allowed us to look at needs of different types of or different transportation needs of people who cannot or do not drive, and also look at where connected and automated vehicle technologies could help. This is, you've probably noticed I have several slides that are not so legible. This is probably the least legible one, but I want to point out over here on the right side was where we noticed that there could be opportunities for driverless rural transit in rural areas and small towns to improve mobility and access for people who do not or cannot drive. With Myrna being a terrific member of our task force, we knew we wanted to get out into greater Minnesota and have a number of listening sessions. We got to several different places in the state, one of which was Grand Rapids. And in that discussion, there was a recognition that improved safety and improved mobility could be some key benefits of connected and automated vehicle technologies, and a suggestion of either just creating one or two routes in the city that might be able to demonstrate this, or another way that could provide a benefit is to offer an after hours, evenings and weekends supplement to the current service provided by Arrowhead Transit. And overall, just we had quite a number of stakeholders there from a number of different perspectives, and they all shared the interest and enthusiasm for bringing this technology up to Grand Rapids. We did one more study here at the Humphrey School. This led us to other parts of the state, and noting opportunities in a number of different places throughout the state. One result was that we actually created some potential plans for deployment in Fergus Falls and White Bear Lake. But we also noted that there's a need for local champions and providing additional transparency so that people in town could know what was going on. And that we really did see happening in Grand Rapids. And as I mentioned at the beginning of my remarks, this brought us to being part of the study that Gina led. We also had Tom Fisher and a team from the design school as part of this. But it gave me the opportunity to go back and look at the findings of these studies I just went over, and kind of determine, what impact goMARTI has been having on those needs that we identified. This included doing interviews with going back and interviewing a number of stakeholders or people who have succeeded, the stakeholders we talked with before, focus groups with older adults, mental health professionals and clients. We also talked with representatives from Minnesota North College to get some of the perspective from younger folks who could potentially take advantage. And we also received some statistics from the folks that have been actually operating this, and we'll hear about those statistics in the next presentation. We got a number of very useful responses. Obviously, the most common words were ones that you would expect related to new technology operating transportation, operators, shuttle, etc. We did find, if you look closely, there were some words like long and wait, indicating there were opportunities for continued growth. But overall, there also were words like friendly, good, grand, excellent, efficient, and super, talking about just how people were receiving the pilot generally. But then we go back and look at the number of the things that we pointed out from the previous studies, everything from back in 2008, 2009, discussing places to have specific pickup and park and ride locations, improving student travel, having transparency in local champions like Myrna Peterson, providing some more multimodal options that meet ADA requirements. Again, a lot of words in this slide, and I just said a bunch of them that are in a different way. But essentially what we found, and I should give credit to the student who worked with me on this, Evelyn Weiner, I believe she's actually in the audience today. She worked with me and we came up with this chart that showed that a number of those needs and desires that were discussed 10, 15 years earlier were something that goMARTI with its deployment model is actually meeting. I also mentioned that we had identified White Bear Lake as a place to do a deployment. I was involved with that. In comparing, looking for best practices out of those two, looking for the lessons that might get from goMARTI specifically. goMARTI, as we'll probably hear, has a number of different funding sources. The ability to bring a community of funds together really, I think, helped create awareness and support and buy-in for the project. goMARTI has done some good interviews. I believe we'll probably hear some results of those, indicating positive attitudes. This leads to increased ridership. The ability to have multiple vehicles and have the technology developed and put on the vehicles separately from the development of the vehicle itself has created some redundancies that allows the service to be available at all times when broadcast that it's supposed to. And the route planning is something that showing some flexibility and meeting the community's needs. In addition to just that idea of creating visibility and opportunity for travel has been very useful. So I'll point out that I've gone through a lot of different studies here and put a lot of words on the slides. Here's a few more, but note that there are links to these particular studies that I went through on this slide. So if folks would like to get more information about those are available. And there's my contact information. But for now, I'll turn it back over and let us get to the real show, which is the information about goMARTI itself.
Thank you so much, Frank. That was good background. I think going back all the way to 2008 and all that happened in Grand Rapids since then. So our next speakers is a group of 3 folks. Tammy Meehan Russell is President and Chief Catalyst at the Plum Catalyst. Justin Johnson is the Director of Technology for the Plum Catalyst. And Thomas Johnson Kaiser is the CAV Planning and Policy Manager and one of my colleagues here at MnDOT. And so they're going to talk a little bit more about the boots on the ground and how it was implemented in Grand Rapids. And with that, I'll pass it on to Tammy.
Excellent. Thank you, Lisa. So as Lisa had mentioned, so I am with the Catalyst, and I just want to highlight, because many people have a lot of questions on what that is. So I'll just say we're a Minnesota-based strategic planning and social innovation leader. We have a mission of advancing research and deployments of emerging transportation technologies that save lives, improve accessibility and mobility, promote sustainability, and grow our future workforce. We do this work in Minnesota, California, and Texas, and hopefully you'll see here that goMARTI in Grand Rapids is a wonderful example of the kind of work that we do. You'll see it encompasses so many different things of our mission. And Justin is driving our slides here, so go ahead, Justin, you can move forward. So meet goMARTI, so Minnesota's Autonomous Rural Transit Initiative. It's an on-demand microtransit vehicle pilot that is operational in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. Picture was taken there during the fall last year. Love all the colors, obviously. No, 2 years ago, actually, during our initial launch. So anyway, I thought we would go through the project overview, the goals of the pilot, some results, some lessons learned, and what's next. So we are going to tag team on this. So I'll be handing it off to Thomas Johnson Kaiser, who is my counterpart at MnDOT as the project manager. And then after that, Justin will dive in a little bit more and close us out. So that's kind of the order of how you'll see things. So go ahead, Justin. So the goMARTI pilot zone, you can see here on the map, it is 5 shuttles that operate in the area of the city of Rapids. And we just wanted to show a little bit of a comparison here. I think you heard this in the video and a little bit more from Frank. But the city of Grand Rapids is around 11,000 people in population. Itasca County, where it sits, is around 45,000. And you can see the percentages for Grand Rapids versus the US average. And this is based on census data from 2020 and 2023. So as Tom mentioned in the video, the 65 and older population for US average is about 17%, where in Grand Rapids, it's about 25%. American Indian or the native population, US average is 0.7. Grand Rapids does sit fairly close to a couple of our tribal nations, including Leech Lake, Band of Ojibwe, Bois Forte, some of the other tribal nations there. And so we do have a little bit higher native population. And the median household income is lower than the US average, and persons in poverty, therefore, is higher. So just wanted to show you that on an average basis versus the US average versus Grand Rapids. So go ahead, Justin. We had a lot of project partners that came together on this, which I'll highlight a little bit more about some of these as we go through. But we sort of categorized them into segments, and you can see that here. So our agency and community partners in the top left, everything from the city of Grand Rapids, the destination marketing organization, Visit Grand Rapids, our state partners that are listed here, IRRR and MnDOT. Arrowhead Transit has been a strong collaborator, and the Chamber, as well as the Economic Development Council in the county. In the top right are our private sector partners, which includes our tech companies, as well as the Plum Catalyst as the project manager. So May Mobility at the top, VIA, which is the behind-the-scenes software, and our nonprofit partners in the bottom left. So you can see those there. We mentioned Mobility Mania. I think maybe Frank may have referred to it as Mobility Madness, which I'm sure Myrna would love to have that renamed, but it is called Mobility Mania if you're looking for it. The Blandon Foundation has been a pretty active funding partner, at least at the beginning part of the project. And then in the bottom right, academic and research partners, you've already heard from Frank. So we've worked with the University of Minnesota. We do work locally with Minnesota North colleges and have worked with the students there, and tied to the local high school and frankly, the school districts, the Itasca Area School Collaborative and their career pathway program called Next. So keep going forward. I'm sure I've missed some partners, but that just gives you kind of an oversight of some of those partners. The snapshot you can see here, it has turned into a 30-month pilot, which takes us through March of 2025, in which case we have some exciting next steps that I think Justin will get into. Currently, we operate 5 shuttles. 3 of those are wheelchair accessible. It is on demand, or you book it via an app, that app which is powered by VIA. You can also use the local call center where we've partnered with First Call 211. And we will continue both of those partnerships in the next phase, but you book that on demand, meaning you only book it when you need it. And currently there's a wait time of around 10 minutes. We'll just say we've got a little more data than that. There's about 70 pre-programmed pickup and drop off locations in the area, and there's 46 lane miles of route. Rides are offered for free. That was important to the team. We do not charge our riders anything to ride in the service. And there is always an operator engaged and on board, so sitting in the driver's seat and available to take over. And as mentioned multiple times, this is the first rural large-scale launch of a public autonomous shuttle pilot, especially one that is in winter conditions or 4 seasons, and with wheelchair accessible vehicles. Next slide. With all of those project partners that you saw on a couple slides ago, it was important for us really when we were initially planning this project to align on what our goals were. What were we trying to accomplish? What did we want to make sure we kept our eyes on and therefore we're tracking against? And so the goals as outlined here are not prioritized. They are not in any particular order, but I'll just walk through them quickly. In the top left, we wanted to make sure we were advancing and informing the technology in rural and winter conditions. And that meant working with our tech companies to make sure that they were able to advance technologies and working in a rural environment and winter. Many times, especially in the automated vehicle space, you hear about those deployments and demonstrations in sunny southern climates. And so we wanted to offer this as a new space for them to learn and advance. In the top right, we wanted to have a deep community engagement with the community, building that trust in this technology. Frank's project was a big part of that. And so I think we have been able to show that we do that, and we continue to keep that as a large priority for the project, constantly engaging with the community, giving them updates, keeping them involved. We use different methodologies for that. In the bottom left, continuing our focus on providing accessible mobility options. Many times I would hear, can't we just do this in everything and not have it be a specific goal? Why do we need to have it called out? And I think what we've learned is if we didn't have it called out, it does start to get deprioritized as you deal with many other issues that come up in a pilot and a scaling it like this. So we have kept it top of mind, and definitely we require accessibility to be front and center for all of our team members. And we define accessibility beyond just our wheelchair riders. We have the local call center. So meaning if someone's not comfortable with their smartphone or with a smartphone, doesn't want to use it, they can use the call center. Economic accessibility. It is free. It's offered for free. We do also do signage throughout. You're a little bit more about that. So wayfinding and making sure it's as accessible as possible and finding it and navigating. So things like that. And in the bottom right, the fourth goal, providing workforce and economic development opportunities. I mentioned the partnership with IRRR, or the Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation, as well as the City of Grand Rapids. It was important for them to take this project and leverage it into how we could grow up our workforce and provide workforce opportunities, as well as some early on economic development opportunities, which we've done a few things around. Next slide, Justin. So a little bit more about the structure. The governance structure is interesting. As you can see, the Plum Catalyst is the prime contractor project manager sitting there, and we really have two bosses. Because of the way the funding model worked, the city and the local partners really wanted to keep ownership at the local level as much as possible. And so, of course, tied to that was the funding strategy. And so initially the project fundraising was half funded by local partners, which meant the city, Blandon, Itasca County, and IRRR. And so the funding came through the city, and the city actually worked with us as the project manager prime contractor. And the other half of the funding came through the Minnesota CAV Challenge program, which is a connected and automated vehicle CAVX program from MnDOT. And so you can see that structure led to us being hired by both the city and the state to be the prime contractor project manager. And below that, you could see all of our many subcontractors. We have May Mobility, which has been a fantastic partner. I think our site manager in Grand Rapids is actually one of the participants here today. And he was featured in the video as well, John DG. And we also have VIA, which is the backend software provider, Microtransit Mobility as a Service provider, our local call center, which has been extremely important, First Call 211, and our university research partners. Next slide. So I just wanted to highlight a couple things about some critical aspects of goMARTI and the governance. So it was really important for us to document a number of things and so the team could really get on board. That's a lot of stakeholders, there's a lot of partners. And so we made sure to work on clear team roles, some guiding principles, especially in an emerging technology space. We wanted people to get on board with what our guiding principles were. And especially when you look at our funding model, we had both local funding and state funding. So we wanted to make sure everyone understood and was aligned with that. When that led into how we talked both inside our team as well as outside the team with the media. So you can see some things we had created there. Very clear brand guidelines, the goMARTI branding itself, and then media requests and the communications plan. The next slide. A couple other things around the goMARTI governance that's more operations based. So we do a lot in operations management. Justin leads a weekly team meeting for progress reporting, which you can see a little bit in our board that we work through our partners with every week. There's also a data management plan, there's a deployment management plan, and there's an emergency response plan. So a lot of risk management, a lot of alignment amongst the team here in all of these documents. Next slide. And another critical aspect of our governance is really the way we plan. How we approach planning it goes to that goal of deep community engagement and building trust. So we use what's called the IAP2 spectrum of public participation, and we also use inclusive planning, and therefore that allows us to really make sure we are approaching innovative, ongoing community engagement. That picture there in the bottom was a group of us. We presented to the city of Cohasset about future expansion plans and all wearing goMARTI sunglasses. So we try to have a lot of fun with our engagement. And I think that's really helped a lot of the community members with feeling like they could ask a lot of questions about the technology and feeling safe in doing that. Next slide. Finally, my last slide is a data slide. I thought it was helpful to give you as relevant of data as possible. So Justin was kind enough to drop in this info here for us, but through December 3rd, so just a few days ago, and I'll just walk you from left to right, HOV rides, so this would be shared rides. So 30% of our rides are up there as HOV rides. The next one is repeat riders. So there's 877 unique riders that we've provided rides for. And 93% of these rides have been repeat rides then. So I think this is fantastic to show that people are actually starting to use this all the way from when we initially launched through today. This has become a daily part of their kind of transportation solution. Our ride rating, this is something that May Mobility is and really should be proud of, which is a 4.9 star with about 1,900 ratings. And highlighting another thing here in the middle on the right, the wheelchair riders. So about 1,000 riders in wheelchairs have ridden, which is a really big deal to this team. And we're just bypassed that 1,000 mark, which I'm really excited about. So with that, I will just turn this over to Thomas. And thanks you all for being here today and hearing about goMARTI.
Thanks, Tammy. And Justin, feel free to go to next slide. So I'm going to start getting into a few of our key takeaways, lessons learned throughout this project. I'll dive into some, and then Justin will wrap us up with a few more. So the first one I'm going to cover is really the importance and the key role that our autonomous vehicle operators have played on this project. Next slide. So there's been many factors that the autonomous vehicle operators have played in this project that have been really important to the success. The first revolves around the operation of these vehicles. So May Mobility does a great job of training these operators. They're all local from the Grand Rapids area to really prioritize safety, experience, and autonomy in that order. So really safety and experience are first. And so that really makes it so these operators play an important part of the safety and experience for anyone riding goMARTI. They also help with the operation in terms of localizing the vehicle along the route, and they can log any data points throughout their operation to help it continuously improve the technology and the automation as the project continues. Another key piece that the operators have played is really being that friendly face that people can interact with when riding goMARTI, especially for those who are new to technology, new to the idea of microtransit. Having someone there that can help answer questions, help explain the technology, provide that comfort for people has been really key, being that human face for folks. And one of the things that we've seen, we have a pre and post ride survey that we have our riders fill out. And the top comment that we see from folks in that post ride survey is their appreciation of the drivers and how friendly they are, how helpful they are, how they really appreciate having someone there in the vehicle. So it's beyond helping with the operations, it's really providing that friendly face. And lastly, there are some still needs for having an operator for a few additional reasons. Currently, the Minnesota law is a little vague in terms of requirements for there's need an operator behind the wheel. So we're way on the conservative side of making sure we have an autonomous vehicle operator there at all times. And also, as Tammy mentioned, very key to the goMARTI project is that accessibility piece. And there is a requirement for an operator to be there for that safe loading and unloading of our wheelchair passengers. I know there are a number of companies, including May Mobility, who's looking at potential in the future for automating that process of securing folks in the vehicles. But currently there is a person that required to do that, to assist with that process. So another great reason that we have our autonomous vehicle operators in at all times during this pilot. Next slide, please. So the next lesson I'll focus on is the idea of stop locations. We've talked a lot about stop locations kind of throughout the project and some of the interesting factors with it. So I'll get into some of those. So Justin, you can go to the next slide, please. So a few things that we really wanted to consider is that stop locations and in a small town like Grand Rapids, we're able to get to most places that people want to go to. I think Justin's going to hit on this a little bit later, but one of the first things we did with our community engagement was asking folks within the community where they'd want to see goMARTI operate. And with it being a relatively small area compared to some other deployments that might be out there, we were able to get to most places. So we're able to get to schools, shopping, healthcare, the different neighborhoods within Grand Rapids. So that was really a great part of trying to determine the stops, is that we felt like we didn't have to cut out too many areas. And as we'll get into the next steps, we're able to continue to expand even more areas of Grand Rapids and beyond. One debate that we had from the very beginning of the project is the idea of signs. So May Mobility and other autonomous vehicle projects typically don't have signage for their stops. but that being a rural deployment, and that even the idea of microtransit or things like Uber or Lyft are not available in Grand Rapids currently. So we felt it was very needed to have a clear signage so people would feel comfortable, especially their first time riding goMARTI, on kind of where these stops would be. So in that previous slide, you did see an example of one of our physical signs that we do have at all of our stops. And when we were determining those stops and where to place the signs, we really were trying to balance a number of things. So where is the best location for the riders in terms of safety and accessibility? So both for the riders and also the vehicles themselves. So where is it best for autonomy, but also best for safety and being able to uh, autonomously pick up and drop off folks that are wanting to ride goMARTI. And also being in a rural area like Grand Rapids, they might not have the built infrastructure like established bus stops or things like that that a larger urban area might have. So really had to be strategic on where we were putting these stops. And then lastly, with the goMARTI operation is that the riders do have that smartphone. If they're using that, that does give them direction on where to walk to get the vehicles with that May Mobility app, or they can call into the call center, which is great since it's a local call center that folks can receive that assistance from someone from Grand Rapids who knows the area to provide directions on how to get to the stop location. It's really great partnering with the city on this. They've helped maintain our signs. As you can imagine, have had a few knocked down or damaged and need replacing, and also helping to keep all of our stops as clean and accessible as possible throughout the winter. So when we were playing the stops in spring, summertime, very different than what it might look like in the middle of winter. So we've been able to adjust and work with the city on that as well. Next slide, please. So another piece that has been really beneficial for this project that we learned a lot about is the importance of being able to do frequent updates to our stops and our route, really based on that community feedback. Next slide, please. So throughout the project, we've at the very beginning and throughout the project really wanted to engage strategically with the community. As I mentioned, that was one of the first things that we asked folks in our community listening sessions was where they'd want stops to be. So really working with them throughout the project to continue to adapt and evolve and adjust to make sure we're trying to help solve those transportation challenges that people might be facing and really create that buy-in. So if people see that we're listening to them, that we're being responsive, able to adjust where the stops might be or where the route goes, really helps create that community buy-in from folks within Grand Rapids. And this also has really led to some impactful changes. So when we first started this project, we tried to strategically place stops throughout the city of Grand Rapids, not trying to show favoritism to any one establishment. So maybe most things were a block or two away from where someone might be looking to go. So what we learned pretty quickly is that some places you really need to have those stops right at the door or as close to the door as possible, like senior living facilities or grocery stores. Riders just weren't willing or able to walk that 1 to 2 blocks, especially in the winter. If you might be someone living in a senior living facility, or you're going to the grocery store or Target and have a bunch of bags you're trying to carry. So we were able to adjust and move a number of our stops to the door at some locations, and that really helped. And we saw our ridership significantly grow after we did that, in particular to the door of Target and the Super One grocery store. Once we moved that stop to the door of Target, that just skyrocketed to our most popular stop location. So really showing that we were able to adapt and evolve based on that feedback we were hearing from the community. Next slide, please. The next thing I'll hit on is our ability with the May Mobility's autonomous driving kit to operate and evolve and continue to improve throughout some adverse winter conditions and operate year-round. Next slide, please. So if you all may remember, and don't want to bring up bad flashbacks for folks knowing that we're coming into winter here. So 2 winters ago, it was very snowy one of the snowiest winters on record in the Iron Range, which most years I would not be too happy with that, but having this project going was excited to see what the main mobility shuttles and how our autonomy would be affected by that harsh winter conditions. So we were able to operate safely throughout that entire winter, and we learned a lot. So seeing from the beginning of winter what our autonomy levels were at to the end of winter showed significant improvements. So we were really able to put that technology to the test, knowing that these vehicles do well with those moderate amounts of snow or ice. Really beneficial that these vehicles, unlike a lot of other drivers, we drive the speed limit, we follow all traffic rules, so able to operate safely. And with the mobility technology, there is a lot of redundancy. So things like radar and LiDAR and cameras and GPS, that we're not just reliant on seeing paint lines or striping on the roadways. So we're able to operate in those winter conditions quite well. And it's also quite easy for the autonomous vehicle operators to take over and switch from autonomous mode to manual mode simply by using the gas or brake or steering wheel to take control of the vehicle if there is any situation where they think it might be unsafe or they're having some more challenging roadway conditions. And also what's been really beneficial about this project compared to some other autonomous vehicle pilots that we've done in Minnesota is that they're able to operate manually quite easily. So if there is super bad weather, we can still be providing that transportation option for folks, even if they're not able to operate in autonomy very much when there's really bad weather, to operate in manual mode, where other autonomous vehicles in manual mode, they're going at quite slow speeds and unable to operate. So really only to have to close the service a couple times when it was extreme enough that kind of all services like schools and government were closed as well. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Justin.
Okay, thanks, Thomas. So one of the things that Myrna loves to say is it's more than just a fancy car. And that's really true. When we particularly start to think about the types of technology that we are introducing to the community, Tammy hinted at it a little bit, and Thomas as well, that a lot of these words that you're seeing, self-driving, on-demand, point-to-point, app-based service, these are all indicative of a particular technology or a particular type of transportation or a way that people, request or use those services. And for a community that, besides being autonomous and learning and understanding what an autonomous vehicle is, there's also a lot of new words on the screen here. So the fact that you can use an app to book a ride, or the fact that you can get a ride to show up in 10 minutes, and the fact that it'll take you from A to B without being a fixed route service. These are all new things. And this underscores really the value, but also the importance of doing a heavy engagement with the community, a heavy hands-on demonstration periods. And our team, particularly John and the team on the ground, have done an amazing job at really balancing big events where we'll bring a vehicle, start to show people what it means to be an autonomous vehicle, get in, look at it, see the sensors, and encourage people to take their first ride. And also micro events where we'll go to a specific senior living community or spend some time with a group of individuals that are looking for more information about how it works, have a chance to answer questions, and really start to kind of demystify the whole technology. And like Frank and Thomas were saying, the survey results are really our best way of scoring the impact of this, besides anecdotal feedback. And from those survey results, we can really see that while there is some sort of not hesitation, but maybe uncertainty up front with people in their pre-ride surveys, after people take a ride, the post-ride survey responses are almost 100% comfortable and willing to try another ride. And obviously you can see that from the people that have tried it. As Tammy said, the vast majority of our riders are repeat riders that ride once a week or more. And so really that outreach has helped us to kind of bridge this hurdle of introducing not only autonomous technology, but all of these other technologies as well. And it's been very successful with the community. So I think that's an important piece for anyone who's considering bringing technology like this to a rural community, that you're up against a little bit more than just the autonomous vehicle introduction. So Tammy hit on this a little bit as well, but how is goMARTI accessible? So we, define accessibility through a few different lenses, and of course, the one that's kind of front and center to the whole operation is having wheelchair accessibility and being able to bring transportation options for those who are mobility challenged. And in this case, we just had our 1,000th ride. We brought 1,000 wheelchair riders around over the about 18,000 rides that we've given so far. We were tracking pretty well at about 10% of our ridership being wheelchair accessible rides or rides with wheelchairs. But since the ridership has really taken off, of course, it's hard to maintain that percentage just with so many other people jumping into the service. But we still are really excited and proud to say that we've offered 1,000 rides for folks in wheelchairs. Another form of accessibility, just from the financial aspect, is that for the duration of this pilot and into the future, for at least the next federally funded option, which we'll talk about later, rides will be free, are free, and will continue to be free for at least the next 3 years. So, of course, from a sustainability factor, at some point, actually in the next 3 years, one of our goals of our project is to do a heavy, thorough analysis on what sustainability modeling looks like to be able to continue operations after our next round of funding runs out. But for the current goMARTI, all the rides will continue to be free. We've touched on the call center a few times, and I really can't underscore the value of the call center enough, besides being community members and advocates and really helping walk people through the ride booking process. They also are there to help folks who have questions when they're installing the app, when they're setting up their account, when they're just learning how to book a ride. The call center has been available for any communication, any troubleshooting, and often can solve the problem directly on the phone with the person who's calling in. That alleviates really a lot of the tech support needs from back at Maine Mobility headquarters or with us at Plum receiving different emails and help requests. So they have done a great job, and they're advocates in the community, constantly going out as part of their greater role as a call center and service provider for the community. They're always out talking about goMARTI along with the other services that they offer for the community. So they've been an immensely awesome partner, and I would recommend for anyone who's thinking about having a service like this in their community to definitely engage a local call center if you can help that. And then finally, the wayfinding, the signage. Thomas talked a bit about the value of the signage, but particularly from an accessibility perspective, the signs are important for call-in users because they don't have the phone that's guiding them to where they're supposed to go to get picked up. And so being able to really have that marker that tells you you're at the right spot and you're waiting where you should be, I think that we've learned that's a really important aspect of the way that people use goMARTI, and particularly the new riders or someone who's trying out a new stop. If you have no way of knowing if you're in the right spot and I have to wait a few minutes, that uncertainty is really put to bed by having this physical marker that lets you know where you should be and that you're in the right place. One thing that we can definitely improve on from the accessibility perspective, and we hear this comment a lot, is what are you doing for hard of hearing, blind folks, IDD community? And trust me, those are definitely things that we are investigating and hoping to bring aspects of into goMARTI 2.0 as we work with the expansion and have the opportunity to really embrace additional new technologies and start to see what features and what parts of technology can we use to make this even more accessible for greater numbers of the community. So stay tuned on that one. We're excited to be trying a few different things going forward. So the power of speed. This is a big lesson learned from kind of, if MnDOT as a whole did 3 pilots over the course of the last couple of years pertaining to autonomous vehicles. goMARTI uses Toyota Sienna minivans, which can travel up to 35 miles an hour. And really what that means is they can drive the speed limit on every road that they are on in town. And we found that that is an extremely important capability for the success of the project, particularly when you're talking about all the other drivers on the road. So one of the biggest challenges with some of the more slow-moving shuttles is drivers do not like when the lane of traffic is being blocked by something that can only go 12 or 15 miles an hour. And so being able to stay at traffic speed, at the speed limit with the autonomous vehicles has really helped our success and our the community to have buy-in and accept seeing the goMARTI vehicles around the road, knowing that they're not going to be causing adverse traffic reactions or cause people to drive more erratically or do any of the things that people do when they get stuck behind a slow-moving vehicle. So this has been a very great success and one of the biggest contributors to the way that goMARTI is received. Another really important thing for goMARTI and for the community has been having those community ambassadors, the local advocates, and the folks that are right there, always excited about goMARTI, telling their friends and driving some of the some people that they know to try it, and just really providing that kind of sense of community along with goMARTI. So on the right, of course, is Myrna, who is always sporting at least a couple of stickers on the back of her chair, and usually goMARTI on a stick from the state fair to tell everyone about goMARTI and how it has helped increase her mobility in town. But also the gentleman standing next to Tammy on the left was a really interesting person who came to the community listening, one of the community events that we were at, checked out the vehicle, slowly kind of walked by the booth, and over the course of about 4 or 5 trips, finally stopped in to learn more and connect with the people sitting at the table. And before we knew it, he had brought his son, that's the taller gentleman in the picture, over to the table, and we worked together, and the team Tammy booked him a ride, and he hopped in the vehicle and took it around town and came back all smiles and very excited that he was able to ride an autonomous vehicle and was a convert. And since we start to make those connections with the community, those ambassadors are really important to share the local voice. And I think that should not be overlooked if you're considering something like this for your community as well. So we have done a lot of engagement, if that's not apparent, through Frank's slides and through the slides here, but it really is the thing that helps to ensure that we're going into a community that is really looking for transportation solutions and that are open to technology as a part of that. And so one of the goals of the community listening was to really understand, where do people want to go, when do they want to go there, and sort of like, well, yeah, where and when, right? And so all of the people who attended our community listening events took surveys that really highlighted the stops that they would like, the services they would like to use, and when they would like to use it. And so we took that feedback directly, and that was the main route planning tool that we used, is to go places where people wanted to go. And that was a very successful piece. Of course, we couldn't get everywhere, but again, we have the opportunity to improve on that as we expand here now with additional funding and additional resources. So one of the things that I mentioned earlier is surveys. Surveys are our main, other than anecdotal feedback, which John and the driver, the AVOs are always providing us, which we love. The other feedback mechanism we have is the surveys. And so a couple of the things I wanted to point out very quickly is looking at what the most frequent use of goMARTI is. So as people reply on these surveys, we can see that, daily errands, leisure, commuting to and from work, and healthcare, these are all very real uses for the service. That's exactly what we are hoping for, that trying out new technology, and sort of other categories are what we would call kind of the impulse uses, where maybe we're not going to develop a long-term rider, but really the way that people are using this by and large is to actually get places that they need to get to, and starting to rely on this as a means of transportation in the community. And that's exactly what we're hoping for. And so a lot of people, if goMARTI wasn't an option, sure, most people still have a car. But look, like almost 40% of people would have to either walk, would have to find someone to give them a ride, or just wouldn't be able to go. And to me, that's a very important metric that helps us to really understand what this is offering as a solution for folks in the community. And you guys can read the quotes here. These are things as people offer responses, send us emails, fill out kind of the the optional comments in the survey. We've had some just really, really impactful statements from folks in the community that have let us know just how much this is changing their lives. And so we love to see things like this, and really it means a lot to be able to provide this for those folks in the community. So now onto the fun stuff. We are really excited and to have been awarded an additional funding source from the Attain grant, which is a federal program, part of the IAJA funding, which is allowing us to add 3 years more operation onto goMARTI. We're calling it goMARTI 2.0. We're getting to add additional vehicles to the fleet. We're expanding the region that we can cover. We're filling in a lot of the gaps in the community where we can add more roads and really get a lot closer to where people live, where people want to go. I'm guessing, we don't know, we don't have any final numbers yet, but we'll be adding a bunch of stops, and we'll be able to get to places that people have been requesting a lot, which is Walmart and the college. We'll be able to go to the college, and also the food shelf, which is going to be awesome for folks that truly need this for access to food, healthcare, grocery stores, and all of the good things. So we're working with the community right now to learn all of the additional places that they've been requesting, and working those into our plan for rolling out new stops. We're also going to be able to test electric vehicles, which is super exciting for the team. That was part of the original plan in goMARTI 1.0, and now we'll be able to bring that to bear with some electric vehicles that are going to head out to a neighboring community just to the west. The hope there is to be able to test out sort of what it's like to use electric vehicles for a transportation service throughout the winter months, and understand the impact on charging based on weather, and really just do a whole bunch of additional research, and like I said, also work to pull together some sustainability plans for what to do moving forward after this federal funding. So super excited about that, and really looking forward springtime, once the snow melts and we can put new signposts in places. We'll be looking to bring this service online. So if anybody has any questions, would like to learn more, of course, www.gomarti.com. That's where all things goMARTI are housed. There's a link you can sign up to get our newsletter and stay connected with all the things goMARTI. You can check us out on Facebook. And I think we have some time for questions as well, if we want to do that. At the very end, we have one of the really kind of fun things that we did with the project was offer a contest to the community for anyone that wanted to write the goMARTI jingle. And so we had a bunch of entries, and Jim Cagle wrote his own song and performed it, and we were able to produce it. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, all the streaming platforms. If we have time at the end, we can give you a sneak peek, a preview. And a funny story is that he used to be the driving instructor in town, so it's fitting that he's able to also provide these autonomous vehicles with some music. So with that, I'll turn it back to the moderators. Lisa.
Yep. Wow, that is so amazing. There's so much to unpack here, right? And we've got about 15 minutes for some great discussion. So whether it's the performance in snow or the acceptance of autonomous vehicles in rural areas, or just the accessibility, I mean, or just on-demand service in general, like this is fantastic. So you really hit on so many things. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to, well, I'll just first say thank Tammy, Thomas, and Justin. Those were really great presentations. And then I'll ask Joe to facilitate our Q&A. So thanks everyone for coming, and Joe, take it away.
All right, thank you, Lisa. I'll just remind the audience to use the raise hand feature if you would like to ask your questions verbally to the presenters, or you can type your questions and comments using the Q&A feature. And I see we've got 6 in there already. So if we get any verbal questions, I'll try to intersperse those. But I do have this pool of 6 questions here available. So the first one we received was, were there any, in quotations, targeted populations within the LGBT plus community in the Grand Rapids area, and what kind of training and vetting occurred for the autonomous vehicle operator?
Ooh, that's several questions. I think I can talk immediately to the training that occurred. So May Mobility is they're really a great host for the vehicle safety and for the AVOs in the community, and they have an extensive training that all of their AVOs go through to make sure that they're both able to handle the vehicle safely, interact and deal with any kind of excitement in the vehicle. They're taught a lot of de-escalation techniques, and fortunately we have not had any real incidents requiring a lot of those trainings, but they have a very safety first oriented approach to all their training and all their driving that needs to be done. So
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, truly, I think I would say the impact of this project also speaks to the collaboration and partnership amongst the team. And Myrna, who is in the electric wheelchair herself, she has a backup wheelchair and has offered that wheelchair to the operations team a number of times. And they use that to do drills with new operators so they can learn how to load and unload wheelchairs, specifically electric wheelchairs. And I think that has been also very helpful, because that was a steep learning curve when we first launched, was learning, especially in those cold winter days. You don't want to leave your riders sitting out there in the cold. So want to get as efficient and safe as possible in loading those wheelchairs. I can speak briefly to the first question here, which was targeted populations in the community. I would say we see this project as a very inclusive project. So we don't specifically target any population. This ride is for everyone. And most notably, the only one we target, I'd say, would be our accessibility focus, making sure that we have a specific outreach plan and activity for that, and therefore, how riders want to ride. That being said, though, we are very much ingrained in the local community, the Plum Catalyst, and therefore, kind of as a subset, goMARTI is a member of the local Chamber of Commerce. So we participate at all the chamber events. We also are a participant in Tall Timber Days, where we've had a booth. And in the parade, we do that parade in partnership with May Mobility. So we have a vehicle. So we really try to be just as inclusive as possible. So targeted outreach within LGBTQ plus, but we definitely try to show everyone that everyone's welcome to ride in a very intentional way.
All right, next written question I have here is, if vehicles are truly autonomous, how would wheelchair riders enter, secure, and depart? And how many would this displace? I assume that means the people that would otherwise do the securing.
Yeah, it's a good question. There's a lot of research going on right now. I mean, maybe a lot is a big word, but there are research efforts going on. There's a couple institutions over in Australia that are actually really leading kind of some of the research to experiment with almost I don't know, like a roller coaster ride style attachment. There's some other institutions that are doing research on really it's how do you automate that process to secure a chair and ensure the safety of the rider. And I think that we're not there yet. There's some early stage pilots going on. We were actually interested in understanding how we could incorporate something like that. And I think it's a little bit down the road yet before something's ready to be put into a commercial or, a sort of off the shelf vehicle. But that's definitely something that we're interested in understanding what the path there is.
All right. Next one I have here, and I should say somebody else is watching the raise hands, so please chime in if there's a raised hand, but otherwise I'll just keep going through the written ones. I have one that says, the last time I was on a test autonomous vehicle in Minnesota, it could not tell the difference between a person and a snowdrift in the road. Has that improved, or does the vehicle still need to be manually operated over snowdrifts?
Yeah, it has improved, and I'm not sure if you were on, Alan, I don't know if you were on a goMARTI vehicle. I think that one of the really, I think that that driving through and sort of detecting the difference. I don't know that they ever were confused about be a person versus a snowdrift, but snow ice chunks do sort of show up a lot like rocks, and the way that you interact with those may be different depending on, kind of how they, where they are on the road. But I would say that one of the things that the software that the driving system can do is it has improved drastically over the course of the first 2 years of the pilot, and really it's all about learning where the curb is and understanding how the snow interacts with that. And I think there's a lot of details under the hood that I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on, but I will say that that the autonomy performance now in the winter has been nearly on par with the autonomy performance in the summer, which means that things like that aren't negatively impacting the operation.
All right, maybe kind of a related question, just to take off on that one. How much snowfall required manual operation of the autonomous vehicle?
Justin, feel free to jump in as well here. It wasn't like a specific number of inches or tracking that we did in terms of that we could answer in terms of like how much snowfall required manual operation. Since it is so seamless with moving between automated and manual mode, we more look at it as like the percentage of time that we're able to operate autonomously. So it wasn't like, oh, it snowed 6 inches, we have to operate completely in manual mode. So really, that's part of the training for the operators as well, is understanding kind of when to switch to manual mode based on the weather conditions. So I think I mentioned this. There was in that really snowy winter, there was a few times where we operated, pretty exclusively in manual mode, but that was when there was very heavy snowstorms, and then there was a couple days that we didn't operate at all, where that was kind of those giant snowstorms that even schools closed, no one's on the road, like it wouldn't be safe for anyone to be on the road. So that's when we didn't operate at all. But there isn't a set number of this number of inches means we have to operate in manual mode.
Yeah, honestly, it's really more about how hard is it actively snowing than it is about how much snow is on the ground. So the sensors, of course, operate, LiDAR sensors operate in the near infrared, 940 nanometers. And during that, if there's heavy water vapor in the air, snow, et cetera, that can impact the ability for those sensors to see as one of the modalities. And again, really the, safety first mentality of the program has just driven us to be cautious and operate in manual in some of those heavy snow conditions.
All right, I'll do one more here, and then we're kind of at our question time. But do you have any evidence on how many of the goMARTI trips were substituting for local fixed route, or demand responsive services offered by providers like Arrowhead Transit?
We don't have like a number of displaced. I don't think that is in our kind of options for how would you have taken this trip otherwise. I don't think we have. I'm trying to remember if our survey we have transit as a specific option, but we haven't seen that as a response from folks. And one of the things that I guess we maybe didn't mention as much is part of the reason that we currently operate Tuesday through Friday from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., Saturday 10 to 10, and then from Sunday 8 to 2. So part of the reason those hours is to, as I saw put in the chat here, to complement the existing Arrowhead Transit operations. So definitely not looking to replace or anything like that, but looking to complement, to provide those variety of transportation options for folks. So that's what we also heard from the community, is they're looking for those evening, weekend hours where there currently is less options.
And I just want to highlight one other thing. Sorry, Joe. I just want to highlight one other thing along those lines with Arrowhead is in the next phase of goMARTI. So in goMARTI 2.0, we are actually going to be integrating through the transit app all of the public transit options. So it would all become integrated, and therefore as a rider, hopefully in the not too distant future, i.e. like less than 5-7 years in transportation world, you could actually do your trip planning and kind of trip chaining all within one app-based service. And so goMARTI would be one of those options. We're planning to get Arrowhead also into the transit app, as well as Jefferson lines. And so as a rider in the community, you'll be able to see all public transit options. So as Dominic was kind enough to point out in the chat, yes, today we complement each other. That's why the evening and weekend hours became so important. So we work closely with Arrowhead Transit to make sure that they're an active partner in all of our discussions as we're designing our service.
All right. I did get a go ahead to take a couple more questions. I don't think we're going to get quite to all of them, but I'll try to get a good variety here. One is, if goMARTI needs to be, Justin, looks like you might have started typing a response, but if goMARTI needs to be staffed by an operator for each ride anyway, how is the autonomous technology advantageous over just having an operator drive full time?
I think, yeah, thanks, Joe. Yeah, I was starting to answer in the chat, but it is definitely easier just to talk about it. So I think really the long-term goal is to understand where autonomous vehicles are the correct solution. If we are able to drive her out in an area at some point in the future, then that would of course be the the not needing to pay a driver would be the advantage in that scenario. Right now, I think it's a pilot program, right? So we're learning, where is it appropriate? How does it work? What are the shortcomings? Where are the opportunities to improve the operational domain? And so at this point, that's why it's a state and now federally funded program, is so that we can do that research and have those learnings. But the beauty is that we still get to drive people and move people at the same time as when we're doing the research. So it's really a win-win. I think it's allowed us to have free transportation for the community while also learning and testing out how autonomous vehicles can operate. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Justin said there, is especially from a MnDOT perspective here for this project, we really see this as a research and pilot project. We're trying to understand, and that was one of our first goals there, is understand advanced technologies to potentially understand those challenges and benefits of autonomous vehicles. And not only that, but the community as well. What's their thoughts? What is their feelings about how comfortable they might be in an autonomous vehicle, to understand what the future might look like. So trying to prepare for that future that is not quite there yet.
All right, I have one more here. In the same vein, so Justin, you just mentioned the free aspect of this. There's a question that says, can you cover if the potential for this service to be paid for by the rider was surveyed or discussed?
I mean, so for the pilot, it was always planned to be no cost to the riders, both to encourage people to try and to understand, if there was no cost barrier, how would people use this? But also because we realized that some people in the community, this is a gap, is the ability to pay for a ride, whether it's their own or having a vehicle. And so this has really been important to us, but also We are looking, like I was saying, at what a future funding models look like going forward. Definitely some amount of cost to the rider is one of the models we'll be considering going forward. So I look forward to that, to what we find and the different options for continuing this beyond the length of the federal funding.
All right, excellent. Well, we're coming up on our time here. And so I'd like to thank all the presenters for sharing information on this project. And as usual, we reserve a few minutes at the end for a round robin for all of our participants here today, not just the panelists and presenters, to offer up any round robin items on latest goings on in the transportation industry. Specifically, what current transportation issues related to environment and energy or transportation infrastructure are you or your organization facing? Do you have any organizational, informational, or event updates to share? And what ideas do you have for potential future council meeting topics or speakers? So if anyone has anything they would like to share in response to those three questions, please use the raise hand feature and you can verbally share, or you can add items using the chat to send to all participants, and I can read those shared items aloud. So anyone has anything to share, this would be the time to do that. Did you see a hand raised by Frank Delma?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. And thanks everyone for attending this. Slightly different perspective, but very much infrastructure and policy. We're having an event here at the Humphrey School this next Thursday, December 12th, on transportation finance in the upper Midwest. And I will post the link with more information and a registration link into the chat. And we have room for more participants and would love to have folks join us if they can.
Thank you, Frank. All right, I don't see any more rolling in. Unless I get some in the next few seconds, I will turn it back over to Lisa.
Great, thanks. Great discussion and great presentation. So, and just want to thank all the speakers and all the participants for attending. So hopefully you can join us again for future CTS Research Council webinars, and in the future they won't be joint ones. Today with Joe and I having our two councils together presenting on this, but hopefully we'll see all of you in the future. So thanks again.
Thanks, everyone. And Justin, I don't know if you want to play the song, having us come out. And also feel free, I don't know if we got to all the questions, but feel free to reach out to any of us at any time. We're always happy to answer any of the questions.
Justin, I think you're muted, so therefore it's muted.
No lack of specificity.
Sorry, I thought maybe it was playing through the speaker.
No matter what your age or ability, goMARTI is here to give you mobility. Have no fear for shuttle service. goMARTI is here when you need a free ride to get somewhere. Your friends at goMARTI will get you there. Transit is now at hand with self-driving vehicles across the land. There are no boundaries you cannot explore. goMARTI gives you independence and more. So if you need a ride to get around, goMARTI is a free ride to be found. Have no fear for shuttle service. goMARTI is here when you need a free ride to get somewhere. Your friends at goMARTI will get you there. If you don't drive, have no fear for shuttle service. goMARTI is here when you need a free ride to get somewhere. Your friends at goMARTI will get you there. goMARTI, experience self-driving in Minnesota's nature.
All right, thanks everybody.